Many thanks, Visi. On the international scene, Iran has denied that it shot down a Ukrainian jetliner that crashed near Tehran on Tuesday, killing 176 people. Iranian authorities also faltered intelligence reports suggesting that it did so. Juliana Olayinka has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom in London. Iran has denied that a Ukrainian jetliner that crashed near Tehran was shot down by an Iranian missile. The country's civil aviation chief said authorities are still unclear about what caused the Boeing 737-800 to crash shortly after takeoff, killing all 176 people on board.
The National Aviation Organization is not permitted to make guesses. We must be sure of what we say. The reason of the crash is not clear for us yet. But as we have mentioned, no missile has definitely hit it. We should find out why there was a fire and what has been the reason.
The flight was a popular transit route for Canadians travelling to Iran and carried many students and academics heading home from the holidays. 63 Canadian citizens were killed.
And he was coming back home from a trip. He went to go see his mother on the holidays. And, he passed away and, we couldn't do anything about it, bro. We couldn't do anything. He just passed away like that.
Earlier, officials from Washington, the EU and Canada said that they had concluded with a high degree of certainty that anti-aircraft missiles brought down the plane.
We have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional. This new information reinforces the need for a thorough investigation into this matter. Canada is working with its allies to ensure that a thorough and credible investigation is conducted to determine the causes of this fatal crash.
Iran has invited Boeing to take part in the investigations. Thousands of people have taken to the streets in Australia's major cities to rally against what they say is the government's inaction on climate change and its handling of the ongoing bushfire crisis that has devastated the country. The demonstrations have added pressure on Prime Minister Scott Morrison to do more to combat climate change after Australia weakened its commitment to the UN Paris Climate Accord last year.
I think that the government has just been absolutely despicable in its lack of empathy and doing absolutely nothing for the bushfires and in its climate change policy or lack thereof. The fact that we're at the bottom of the list of Western countries in dealing with climate change is ridiculous, considering how affluent we are as a country.
It's not like we can say it's going to get better. There is no moisture in the ground. It's going to get a lot worse. And more people will die and more homes will be lost. What is it going to take?
Generally, get rid of the government that is denying everything. They just only react when they have to. Every decision is a political decision. It's never about the people, basically. That's why I've turned up.
Authorities said they expect fires to flare up in the weeks to come and have urged nearly 250,000 people to evacuate their homes. Preparations are underway in Taiwan for the country's presidential and parliamentary elections, which will take place this weekend. The ballot will be closely watched by China, which claims the island as its territory. Taiwan's first female president, Tsai Ing-wen, is seeking re-election and a big critic of Beijing. Polls put her firmly ahead of her main challenger, Han Kuo-yu, who has pledged new ties with China to help boost Taiwan's economy. Trade unionists in France have met with the government in attempts to find a solution to the public transport strikes that have brought Paris to a standstill. Demonstrators are pushing back against President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform that they fear will push their retirement age back with lower pension payouts. Israel has announced the release of 2 prisoners, one of whom was convicted of spying for Syria as part of a swap deal brokered by Russia. In April last year, Russia handed Israel the remains and personal effects of an Israeli soldier who was declared missing in action, along with 2 others, following a 1982 tank battle with Syrian forces in Lebanon. Israel's Prime Minister's office said the 2 men, both from Golan Heights, were released as a goodwill gesture. And finally, the third Winter Youth Olympic Games has opened in Switzerland, attracting a record number of more than 1,800 athletes from 79 countries and regions. The Games will last until January the 22nd, with venues spread across Switzerland, including in Lausanne and the Swiss Alps, with some events taking place in neighbouring France. And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Many thanks, Juliana. Still ahead on the news at 10. International Olympic Committee awards the 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games to the South Korean town of Gangwon in a bid to bring peace to the Korean peninsula. That's in sports news. Stay with us.